Yo, what's going on everyone? Brian and Jim here with DrinkABeerandPlayAGame, and today we're checking out Road Rash 2 for the Sega Genesis.
Released in 1993, this was once again developed and published by Sega. This is a Sega Genesis exclusive. So, we love the first Road Rash, and you would expect that this game would add a whole lot more and reinvent the wheel, or not. Let's find out.
Be prepared to hear the following statement over and over, but this game is very similar to Road Rash 1. So while the races take place across the US this time, once again, the tracks, there's only a handful of them, and as you go on to further circuits, they just become longer and longer. You have basically the same amount of obstacles. Maybe there's like an extra broken down car or a bear, but really it's kind of the same. And even the bike sprites themselves look pretty much the same, maybe slightly better, but considering this came out later, you would have expected a little more. The one thing I will say is there are a lot more of these animations, which made us laugh our asses off, so we'll give them kudos for that. But as far as score, we had to keep it at a 6. Once again, this came out later than the original Road Rash, so they should have been able to offer at least a little more variety with your bikes and the opponent sprites. And as far as beer, I'm just going to drink one for enjoying myself way too much when we're watching these little animations.
Alright, the sound. Kinda similar to the first one. Basically, there's 5 different music tracks for the 5 different cities where you race. States. City-states. Countries.
Geography.
Yeah, that stuff. Anyway, 5 tracks for 5 states. But the sound is a lot more varied this time, at least with the music, because instead of just all being straight up rock and almost close to metal, there's some, like say Hawaii, it starts with a more tropical kind of sound. And everything just has a different feel from each other this time, which is a good improvement. Besides that, you get the nice little ending jingle where you can see all these awesome animations, but we'll get to that a little later. And the sound effects are the same as before. Not a lot was changed, but they didn't break anything either. So, we gave it 7s. Same as before, because why? Because it's still just as good as it was before. And as far as beer goes, I'll give 1 beer for the more inventive soundtrack.
The control in this game is exactly the same as the first Road Rash, except they add in a nitrous button, which just requires you to double tap B. Now I'll let Jim go into some of the other gameplay aspect changes, but from a control standpoint, it's exactly the same. I will say the turning feels a little bit tighter in this game, and it can also be a lot more unforgiving, but we'll talk about that later. So all in all, they didn't improve anything, but they definitely didn't bring down the score, so we left it at 8s. And as far as beer, I'm only going to add 1, just because I want to drink a beer.
When it comes to the gameplay, nothing really changed. You're still going through the races, winning money each time, going through the different circuits, and basically by doing that you replay all the races, but they get longer and harder. The racers get more aggressive. Besides that, the more you piss off racers, the more they come after you. More of the same shit. But they did add a few things. Like Bryce said, there's a nitrous button. This thing makes you go crazy fast. But there's a downside, because if you're doing nitrous and you crash, your bike takes extra damage. And you can basically wreck your bike within 1 or 2 hits. It gets that nuts. And there's a few more bikes. But, speaking of bikes, the menu system to pick them, and just in general, has really been cleaned up. It's a lot easier to navigate, you can see everything better, you're not going through these weird tiles, almost like the Xbox dashboard. It's straight up menus. And with the bikes, you have super bikes, nitro bikes, different classes, different stuff to break it down easier for you. Also, you get a few more game modes. So, it hits you the most in multiplayer, because now instead of just having that take-turn bullshit, you also get to do split screen and mano a mano. Now, mano a mano is basically one-on-one split screen, but you get to choose the bikes you have, you get to choose the weapons you use, and you get to choose the race level. Split screen's split screen. And to its credit, the game really doesn't suffer that much. For a 16-bit game with everything that's going on, it still runs pretty smooth. Now, granted, it's a little bit choppier, but it's really almost as smooth as the first Road Rash, if maybe just the slightest bit more choppy. Overall, the driving's as tight as ever, and while it can be a little bit more finicky and a little easier to crash off your bike, it's still just as good as it ever was. And once again, these little cutscenes at the end of races, they're hilarious. You get them when you get busted, you get them when you wreck your bike, you get them when you win, you get them when you lose. There's a couple different ones and they're all entertaining. And it's a nice change of pace just from the racer smack talking you. One more thing, this game is over the top as ever, because when you crash hard. And luckily the game's smart enough to not move your bike 10,000 yards behind you, so when you get back to your bike it's relatively fast. But you will take some brutal and bullshitty deaths.
Jim!
Ah! God! What?
I think it's time to bring back the montage!
Ooh, that's been a while. You know what? I hate to say it, but he's right. Alright, wrapping up, score-wise, we both gave it 8s. It's a definite improvement over the first game, though it still has its little quirks here and there. And as far as beer goes, I'm just gonna add 1 beer for Wild Thing.
Ha! The originality. Well, the first Road Rash really wasn't that original. And now comes this game with very minor changes. So obviously we couldn't give it many points. The points we did give were for the nitrous, the addition of the chain, and I do kind of love when you're swinging the chain above your head. It's pretty hilarious. But other than that, yeah, there's nothing new here. So I actually gave it a 2. Jim gave it a 3. And as far as beer, let's add in 2. Just for how much you're going to enjoy when you're swinging that chain above your head and you whack the shit out of someone.
Alright, the replayability, I can keep it quick. You have a real multiplayer mode now, so that automatically gives it a 5. Plus the little tweaks and the overall difficulty of the game will keep you coming back for more, along with the fun. So, Brian gave it a 6 and I gave it a 7. And as far as beers go, I'll give it 1 beer for a split screen.
So overall, with the minor adjustments they made, this is clearly a better game than the original Road Rash. Mostly because it has a true 2-player mode now. We just love that, because hey, it's fun to play by yourself or pass off the remote, but when you're going against
It's always fun playing with yourself.
I can't even smack them for that one. So, yeah, there's nothing more fun than knocking your buddy off a bike. Like, watch this right here while I fuck Jim up. You see that? Yeah. I actually bumped my score up to a 7. For some reason, Jim kept his at a 7. Probably because he sucked at it.
Hey, no!
But it is a better game. When we combined all of our scores together, it rounds out to a 7.2. Clearly above average, and so far going through these Road Rash games, if you're going to spend some money on the series, just skip over to this. You're not missing as much with the first game. When it comes to the beer pairing, I wanted to choose the Alaska Brewing Alaskan Amber Ale. Listen, if you're lucky enough to be on the West Coast and sample one of these, or if you're like me and went to a beer show and were able to have one, then you know it is one damn fine amber ale, and I wanted to choose a place that's a little out of nowhere, a lot like the tracks in this game. So, if you can, pair these two together. If not, just choose one of your favorite amber ales, because you're going to need something you can drink real easily to go with such a fun game. And remember to drink your beers and play your games responsibly. As always, guys, thanks for checking out this video, and if you enjoyed it, make sure you give us a thumbs up, leave some comments, or better yet, why not subscribe? Till next time, guys, cheers.